Good morning, good after. Actually, greetings. Today we are in a new episode of Debates Never Die. I am your host Babatunde, joined by. I told you I wanted to try the new thing. We're trying to infiltrate the West African market. So now I'm Babatunde, and then we're gonna get Olua Toby, and we're gonna do a two-man thing of Debates Never Die. Welcome to another episode. I'm your host Malcolm. It's just myself and Khanya today. We're just gonna have
I,
a quick. Yeah, please, sir.
I hope
Before
you
I.
saw. I hope you saw how quickly my shoulders dropped when I heard that accent. Anyway, welcome back to the episode of the Base Never Die. The
Breaking
Champions
news.
League finals concluded. We are dealing with the Club World Cup, first of its kind, at least in this format. And Sheiks, you reckon it's the one? Actually, last I checked, you reckon
Yeah,
this
no,
is a good idea?
I was gonna. Before we get into that, I was gonna say it's gonna be a quick episode. We're just touching Club World Cup and then transfers. But starting with the Club World Cup, since you've got the ball rolling, 1,000%. I think this tournament, excluding Oceania, I don't know why they're there.
Mm.
It could save
World,
football.
world, world,
World, what?
world. They have to be there.
No, but like,
No,
do
no,
they like you could?
they have to be there.
But you could do a coefficient. I just don't think you should have four people from there. You know what I'm saying? Like you could do a coefficient and have like one or two. It's what we do in the World Cup. You know how like we don't have the same number of teams from each continent and each region, right? There's like a coefficient they apply. I think other than that, like legitimately, and I know I'm in the minority, I think this tournament could save football. Like in all seriousness, because the few games I've watched, um, Kanya, the football on display, and we're gonna go specifically into specific games, but I've watched about 3 or 4 games now. The football on display is mid 2000s football. It's it's a clash of different ideological approaches to the game,
Mm.
and it has this perfect blend of audaciousness, like tactical nuance, individual brilliance that like I haven't seen sustained in man, I don't know how long. It's been quite some time since I've seen that blend. Maybe 18, 19 was the last time I saw that because that was a good season in football in hindsight. But you, my friend, are seemingly on the other side of the spectrum. What have been your experiences of the Club World
So,
Cup so far?
okay, so I'll say this. I think you're benefiting one from having watched live, right? I think that was going to always impact your overall experience, and I think you picked the right game. Right? Essentially, you went to the home team, if we're gonna call them that. You got to watch Inter Miami, right?
Yeah.
I think your experience, that being the first game you watch, right? Immediately you're thinking, "Wow, I'd never watched Al before. You know, this
I
is
have,
this is quite interesting. You have,
but
okay, there you
not
go.
live. Not live, but I've seen them in
Okay,
the CAF Champions League.
yeah. But you get to say, okay, cool. They showed up and African team is representing. This is great stuff. The first game I watched was Bayern versus Auckland City.
See, that's why I'm saying
so,
Oceania
so
needs to go.
my point is immediately that our perspectives are like, okay, bro, what you watched versus what I watched, it's
Night and
getting a
day.
little bit weird here. Then
Yeah.
you watch PSG versus Atleti, and then you've got Lorente saying he can't sprint. He said it's too
Mm.
hot. He said I don't know why he said his toenails specifically, but he said his toenails are too hot to sprint. I've
Yeah.
never been in a situation where my toenails are why I can't sprint, but that's not the conversation. Um, so again, it's just like okay, so you've got one team that came into this relatively prepared because all their players were still playing either Nations League or literally 2 weeks before, versus Atleti where their season petered out maybe 2 months ago at this point,
Right. Right. Right.
right? And it's just like okay, teams are coming in at different levels of preparedness, whatever. PSG, arguably best team in the world right now. It's fine. It's fine. It didn't look good, but it's fine. Palermo versus Porto. First half was interesting. I didn't
Mm-hmm.
hate that.
Mm-hmm.
Fair enough, fair enough. Um, I don't know if right now I'm of the opinion that it's going to save football. I think that's my issue. I think that it's a really great tournament and proper exposure for teams outside of Europe, and that part of it I am all the way for. But you have to qualify. What does save football mean here?
Okay, so I think before I even get into that and speak about the specific games I've seen, um, you've made a good point about like Nations League and how I guess the overarching, conversation there is fixture congestion because there's just too many fixtures being played,
Mm,
and I completely acknowledge how that can derail not only the quality on display but also just the appeal. Like Toby sadly said he's taking a break from football after 9 months of abuse from Man United. But I also saw other tweets where people were like, "Dude, go touch grass, like leave football for some time," because when
Mm,
you really deep it, it's been non-stop since July last year, right? This is
mm.
12 plus months of uninterrupted football. So from that perspective, that's a fair point, especially impacting the European teams, because anyone who watched that Atletico PSG game could see Atleti were not,
They weren't
um,
ready.
they
They weren't
weren't
ready.
ready.
They
And
almost looked unprofessional.
yes, yeah, they started off well and just completely fell off the rails. And then also you have to factor in, this isn't spoken about enough in the US, but like summers are hot. Like no, like we talk about like the Middle East and how the World Cup can be in the summer. In the middle. The US is in the same vein, right? Like especially when you look at the places where the tournaments being the stadiums are, Miami, well Fort Lauderdale, bro. I left to turn on my AC. I remember before we started, I said, "Let me just go turn my AC."
Yeah.
I have a hoodie. I have a hoodie on. The AC is so that I don't burn from the humidity outside, but then it gets too cold inside, so I have to put a hoodie on. That is how hot it is. It's very, very, very oxymoronic. But that's how hot it is in the Miami area. You then have Texas, which is my guy. Don't even get me started. And then you have California. Those are like the three main hubs. And then of course you have New York. I think Seattle's another one. Those two areas are better in terms of weather. But it's also another factor when you look at it in conjunction with fixture congestion.
Yeah, you're
Quality is
playing
lower
you're playing in extreme temperatures.
in extreme
Players are
temperatures.
also unfit. It's a lot. It's essentially. I think my issue with the Club World Cup is that because of its timing, like where it's placed in the season, it's essentially a preseason tournament. It just has lots and lots of money behind it, and that's not a bad thing, right? Because you ultimately want to make preseason more meaningful, right? Like you want teams to try and put on a show. I think the fact that it's in the States is also, it's timely. It's a precursor to the World Cup. I understand why the tournament's there. Like it makes a lot of sense. And funny enough, I do think the Club World Cup has potential. I just don't know if this is a part of the season where it's meant to be in.
Yeah, I think the UEFA Nations League, FIFA and UEFA need to end their long standing beef and just
Mm,
sort that out, because
yeah.
that is a fair point. So from that perspective, I do get where you're coming from, but the reason I say it's saving football is for the things I pointed out before. I'm gonna have there's 3 points I want to make. The last being the most profound. But first of all, again, like just the football on display. Of course, we've had bad games, right? And
Mm,
undoubtedly, we've had bad games,
hmm
but like these are just into my okay. Let's start into Miami against Al Ahly. Um, I had to say it in Arabic. You had Inter Miami, who have nothing in transition. Listen, they have three, three or four transition threats depending on who's on the pitch. You have
But the two of them having Messi and Suarez up front 2025 is insane.
that's what
They
I'm saying. So
they
so so
they
what
are taking the piss.
what Mascherano does, and it's actually he's been very shaky defensively, but this is something that I must dap him for. He plays a 4-4-2, and then you have two youngsters named Allende, who I think is um Uruguayan or somewhere South American, and Segovia, right? So they're playing on the outsides of the 4-4-2, and then you have Suarez and Messi up top. So what it really is it's a functional 4-3-3. So it starts off as a 4-4-2, but depending on what side of the pitch the ball is, Allende joins as the third striker, or Segovia joins as the third striker. But then out of possession, they have to get back, and now they're basically covering distance of a center mid and a right winger. It is unbelievable running between those two guys. Like they are taking years off their life, but it works functionally. But then because of that, as you pointed out, they have to build up. There were so many times where they'd get the ball, there's a transition threat. Suarez starts running, and then he turns back, and he has because they have, yeah, they have nothing, So how Inter Miami win games in the MLS is by dominating possession.
Mm.
Look on the other side of the pitch. The Egyptian champions. It's like actually they're not Pyramids FC, who are actually I think Egyptian champions. But the LA, they now they now are playing on the break. It is African football. It's counter after counter after counter. So like seeing that blend and how the game opened up, not because of like Spurs versus United opening up of just being nonsense, but like
Yeah.
genuine
Just
clashes of
clash
ideology.
in styles. Yeah.
Just the clash in styles was so exciting. And then I counted, I think, 9 shots from outside of the box. That's the most I've seen in a game for so long, man. Like people are teeing it up. Trezeguet missed the penalty, but the reason he took that penalty is because he was smacking them from distance. So like it's that component that I love. The second aspect you touched on as well is the notoriety it brings. There's
Mm,
so many there's so many just ignorant football fans that exist, dude.
mm,
Like it's insane how little respect they have for Sundowns and Monterrey from Mexico and Boca Juniors. So like having them on the pitch to kind of give you a visual of
mm,
how little the margins, how small the margins are between some of the best and
mm.
and good teams but
And
aren't that
the
level,
relative unknowns, yeah.
yeah, is beautiful.
Mm,
And that's the third point that I'm going to make. This tournament, the reason I'm saying it's highlighting, it's saving football, is because I believe that the Club World Cup is showing people the margins in football
mm,
are close to non-existent. We saw this in the 2022 World Cup, and people said, "Oh, Morocco got lucky." This. No, it's quite clear at this day and age, and we're going to see how City fare and all of that stuff. I watched Chelsea versus LAFC yesterday. LAFC could have won that game. Like
mm.
Buanga, and I'm forgetting who their left mid is. Let me just get his name. Their right mid. Ordaz was cooking. Oh no, who came on for Ordaz? I'm forgetting. I think Martinez were cooking Kukurea and the guys, right? So for
Mm,
me, it's showing that like the world of football as a whole, it's going to make people, I think, appreciate the intangibles and composure and ability to perform, because it's getting to a point where everyone can do what everyone else can do, right? Buanga was taking players on as if he's Cole Palmer, right? Like Martinez was running with driving with the ball as if he's Pedro Neto, but now composure in front of the goal, making the right decisions, like
mm,
controlling your temperament. These are so I think this Club World Cup, starting with the 2022 World Cup, is going to bring about a new era of football where it's quite poetic. Lamine Yamal is in this conversation for Ballon d'Or because he doesn't have the numbers. But
mm,
there is a strong group of people who are saying, oh, Lamine or Dembele over Rafinha. Whereas in the
mm.
past, Rafinha is, I think,
The numbers mean he takes it like
it
easily,
means
yeah.
it means so that's why I'm saying it's saving football, because it's bringing about like it's like, oh no, everyone can do what everyone else can do, but who can do it when it matters most? Who can set themselves apart, not through spamming goals and assists, but through like understanding of temperament and when to go, when not to go. And I
Mm,
don't know, I just feel football's re-entering the early 2000s era, where the likes of, there wasn't a conflation between the game changes and the masters, if that makes sense. Like Filippo Inzaghi was a game changer, right?
mm.
Everyone loved Inzaghi. You could
Oh,
score you a
you know,
goal.
just I think better way to say it, the match winners versus game changers.
Well, I don't you think a match winner? Okay, well, I see what you're saying, because you can be a
Mm,
game changer without being a match winner.
yeah,
Fair. Yeah, I agree with that. Right, where Figo is considered the best player in the world, 5 goals in the
yeah.
league.
There you
Why
go.
is he the best? Watch him play. So like
Yeah.
that's why I think it's going to say football. But I say that to say, I think your point of watching live is true,
Mm.
because hearing that atmosphere, oh my goodness gracious,
It,
bro, I
it's
didn't
it's a different world, mate. Because what we're watching here, TSG versus Atleti was dead.
was dead.
It was like I looked and I was like, this looks like a preseason game. Like
Yeah, yeah,
like
no, no,
I want to blame Simeone as well because he's also, I don't know if they didn't care or if it's just like I don't know what's going on inside that camp. There's a lot happening. They just generally obviously they would talk about Griezmann potentially leaving. Like there's lots happening. There's lots of other
hmm
things that are playing into everything we've seen, and it has still just been match day one. So
right,
I don't want to. I don't want to run the tournament out too much. The important thing is, and what I think we really should be focusing on is what you said about the fact that this brings eyes towards teams outside of Europe.
yes,
I think that's the best thing that this tournament can do.
yeah,
Just the fact that it will continue as well. It's just like you would want this. You would want these players to have that opportunity to show what they are, because the previous version of Club World Cup was Mignols. That much.
yeah, that was
That
horrible.
look how good this one is. That's a different conversation. But just side by side, something that you didn't care about at all that happened in the midst of whatever, and the Champions League winners just vanished, and when some country you didn't know about for an indiscriminate period of time, it didn't make
I,
sense.
I think before this tournament, I watched maybe like 3 Club World Cup games my whole life.
Yeah.
Barcelona Santos. I think
And that's Neymar. And only
that's
only
Neymar.
Neymar's the
I
only
needed-
reason that you wanted to do that.
Yeah, I had to see how it correlated to European standards.
Mm.
I watched Sundowns against Chelsea or someone like recently. In that, I think they lost 1-0, or it was Madrid maybe. I forget. I need to check. And then there was another game that I watched by mistake in like the late 2000s because my brother was watching it on ESPN. So like to your point, it is a good revamp. But now I get what you're saying. It just seems like everything is so manufactured for the bottom line now. Like it's like if this tournament happened before the whole conversation of Super League and before the whole expanding of the World Cup,
you'd
and
appreciate it a lot more.
yeah,
It's
definitely.
and also, I think some part of it, and obviously I'm not on the ground in the way that you are. Something I have been seeing from Americans generally is complaining about like the lack of branding, like saying the marketing for it has just generally been bad. On
Yeah.
top of the ridiculous ticket prices,
Yes, that's very much the case. Yeah.
like the idea that this tournament is like meant to take over the states is like that is not what is happening.
Oh, and that's never going to be the case. I
yeah.
think Americans don't care enough about non-superstars. Right, like people are joking about Ronaldo needs to be. I don't think that Ronaldo per se, but players of that caliber, right? And like
Yeah.
the marketing as well. Dude, they did one ad where they were just saying the same sentence in different languages. Like, I haven't seen anything on your Fox Sports or NBCs. I haven't seen any real promo. So yeah, I hear that. Yeah,
I think that's part of the issue. I think the tournament suffered from the lack of just genuine coverage. Like it's happening, sure, but I think we know it's happening because we are avid football watchers.
Yeah.
Right now, you're hoping to appeal to some of the casuals who are just around, who will catch a game here and there, and to watch this what is supposed to be this massive competition ahead of the World Cup.
And I think the money hungry component even feeds into that, because I don't know if you heard about the whole situation with the sponsors before leading up to the tournament, the broadcasting rights.
No, elaborate for the listeners.
So FIFA were holding out on a $1 billion deal for who's going to get the rights to broadcast this Club World Cup. And no one wanted it. Sky didn't want it. Who are the other prominents? NBC didn't want it. No one wanted this tournament, right? CBS didn't want it. And then at the 11th hour, maybe
the zone, hey,
the zone, yeah. And the 11th hour, first of all, I thought it was DAZN. I've been calling it DAZN my whole life, but the zone, that sounds childish, dude. It sounds like what is the name of
zone
at Rosebank?
I'd be saying no, because it's called the zone.
The zone, yeah, like we're going to the zone. Anyways, yeah, the 11th hour they came with an offer that was well under asking, and had they not, they would be. I mean, FIFA knew someone would budge, but it's obviously a waiting game of can we get a premium for this, and they didn't. And now I don't know if you know about the zone in terms of the coverage they do offer. They're like to broadcasting rights what PES was to sponsors back in the day. No, genuinely, like if you, because I was thinking of getting it because it's so annoying. Like I have cable on my Hulu. So I'm like, I get some games, other games, I don't like that. So I was like, let me just get the app that will let me watch. It was like $29.99 for the month, if I'm not mistaken. And then I was like, okay, if I'm going to be paying $30 a month, I need more that it gives me. Bro, it's literally, no disrespect to women's football, but they only have women's leagues. And then they have the Coppa Italia, and they have like one other. So they're not. They
don't have access to that much mainstream football.
Anything, which is also another reason why people don't care for it, because who's going to go to the zone to watch
of all these broadcasters? It's just
exactly.
Like, it's you guys. I go.
No one has the zone. So why the hell would we now get the zone just for this tournament? But yeah, no. Look, yeah, not without its flaws, but in terms of the games that I think really showcased the quality of this tournament. I don't know if you caught the highlights for Benfica against Boca Juniors.
I did. That's probably game tournament so far.
Yeah, what a game! Yeah. Like that was incredible. And then River Plate against Urawa. I'm just looking at the list now.
Unfortunately, I did judge the name. I judged the name, and I didn't watch that.
It was a good game.
I'm sure, but I wasn't convinced. Unfortunately, although something I did note, I think the Savio that the Red Diamonds have, I think he played for Flamengo once upon a time.
He did. Hey, look at you, man. Well, they ball knowledge, man. There was that one kid that was playing for River Plate, the prospect. I forgot his name.
Yes, Master Sunto.
Has he left
the guy,
already?
no, he played. He played that game.
He did. Hey.
Yeah, I saw on FOTMOB that he jammed.
Okay. Oh yes, he did. He did. He did. Yes. 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 Yes.
Yeah.
I didn't catch the whole game. I just caught glimpses of it when it was in the background. And then another game that I really enjoyed was Botafogo against Seattle Sounders, and it's quite telling that Seattle Sounders is one of the few teams in the MLS that have a genuine following. Like they love their soccer in Seattle. So like that game was like when they equalized, because I think Botafogo scored first from a free kick, and then Seattle Sounders scored I think cut back, and I forget now, but you heard the roar of the stadium, and then the last 10 minutes were very tense. Like I don't know, I think there's potential, but I'll say this in closing for this: the Club World Cup is going to be an exciting tournament, but it's not going to be for the reasons you think. The games you think are going to bang are probably not going to bang. It's going to be, now you need to get into your alt football bag. So whenever you see River Plate, Boca Juniors, Botafogo, teams who have a following, I'd say tune into those games, because those are the games that are going to give you that thrill, that dopamine release. And again, Al Ahly, like they had, bro, maybe it's because of the situation in the Middle East with Palestine. Every Arab, when I say every Arab, so I was sitting next to this guy, my friend's roommate, who was Syrian, and we all walked in saying we're Inter Miami fans. But I don't know if it's hearing the players' names on the announcements. I don't know what happened.
Or just the sweat of emotion.
They just came out, bro.
No, it's like when Saudi Arabia scored against Argentina. I understand.
Literally the best example.
When the underdog is doing something incredible, you can't. If you came in neutral,
my boy, he got so into it that like when I spoke to him, asked him a question, he responded in Arabic. He was in the zone, bro. No, like he was watching his people, and that level of pride. It reminded me in feeling, and this is another thing I'll say. I know I said in closing, but it reminds me in feeling of the World Cup because of the nationalist component, but also because conceding a goal in this tournament is death. It's death, bro. Because I don't know if it's the humidity, the heat, to the effort required. Like if Inter Miami conceded, Ustari was really good. The goalkeeper, if they conceded one, they would have lost that 4-0. I promise you. But like the fact that they stuck in, they just stayed in there. Momentum shifted entirely. Now they're living in their half. Goal line clearance. Messi hits the post. Like So like, guys, watch the games. Forget Man City, PSG, Juventus. Let's go. Watch the games for Oaks that you aren't like. That's Sundowns versus Sorry, let me check. Sundowns have a game.
I think it's Ulsan, something like that.
Ulsan. I'm not. I was gonna say Fluminense.
No, I think it's about the Sundowns game.
Yeah, Sundowns.
Yeah, Sundowns played Ulsan. Oh, you're saying like going forwards?
Going forward. Sorry, going forward. Yeah. Like they have Dortmund next, and people are probably going to tune in. Watch that game against Fluminense. I'm telling you now.
I hear what you're saying.
That's gonna be when you have nothing to lose, and Oaks are like, I'm playing for a contract. I want to make millions, my boy. It's honestly beautiful. So but your concerns are noted, and I think they're very valid. I think it does kind of reiterate the consumerist capitalist issues of football that we've been dealing with for the past few years. Did you see? Sorry, last thing I want to say. Did you hear how much teams make just for coming to the tournament?
I think it's like upwards of like 40 mil.
25. 20 to 40, depending on, because they have a coefficient for teams or whatever.
Oh yeah, also that I hate
fucked
that.
up.
The fact that Madrid automatically make more for any game they win than like Sundowns would. Hate that.
Nonsense.
But at the same time, it makes perfect sense because of who they would draw. Like I understand how it's happened, but yeah, the idea of it like all around is just there's just too many holes. There's too many holes. You can poke through this and just be like, I shouldn't care about this the way they want me to.
Yeah.
And do you think worse than anything else? Sorry to interrupt you. Foden scored in the game currently taking place.
Did he just
and, yeah, and honestly, that happening, the Club World Cup being used as a launch pad for Foden to get himself back together. I'm just kind of just like, man.
And the goals and assists counting towards the season tallies. I hate that, bro. I hear you there. That's a fucking. Or Rangers is playing.
We're gonna tell me about Wyatt Casablanca games, bro. I don't know, man. I don't know.
I hear
I don't,
you.
I'm not.
I
I'm
hear
not.
you.
I'm not. I'm not happy with that. But you know what?
I
It's
was gonna
okay.
ask,
Yeah.
do you think African teams they're gonna see that money, the players, like the
I don't. I would like
Sundowns
to
we can
believe.
confirm because we know who
Yeah.
owns Sundowns, so we know
I,
Sundowns they're getting their money, but
I would
like
like to believe that
the other oaks.
as a continent there has been too much attention drawn to poor governance, and we would like that football to be the one place where that doesn't happen. I would hope so for all the players, and also crucially, I'd like to think that because the platform is so large, the players can make noise about this, and
Okay,
it won't be like some random competition where they were like, was like, what are you even talking about? No one
right,
watches
right,
the
right.
Egyptian FA Cup, you know.
Mm.
It's just like, no. Club World Cup, we said we didn't get our coins. And you know, like you aren't like, again,
Give us our
this is one of the
coins.
the benefits to, you know, to the Club World Cup, is that these people do have a larger platform. All of
Mm.
them, everyone who is
Yes,
involved has a larger platform than they did beforehand.
yes,
Like
yes.
people didn't know Felipe Luis was coaching Flamengo. Now
Flamengo,
you
yeah.
know.
Now you know
Now you know.
exactly.
Like
Yeah.
the fact that that's the case, I think is great. And I think the elements of people saying this guy plays there now. You know, like, when were you going to see Sergio Ramos play a club football game
Right
again?
for
It was
Monterrey,
done.
exactly.
It was done.
That's so true.
He was essentially retired until yesterday. Yesterday's the first time I've seen him play in 2 years.
In 2 years, yeah. I get
And
more eyes on foot. That's such a good point. More eyes on football is always a
yeah,
good thing. Yeah, more
yeah.
people
So
watching football, educating themselves is always a good thing.
yeah, so for all my complaints, for all the reasons not to like the Club World Cup, I really do hope it works, and I hope it continues, because you do need this. You do need a competition like this. The fact that
Yeah.
football hasn't had one of like notable prestige all this time is a shame, I think. And I could appreciate, even though they've done it in very shady and weird ways, what Infantino and his cohorts are trying to do. You know, Sergio Canales is back on TV,
Dude,
mate.
I couldn't
Honestly,
believe that was him.
honestly.
I
So
was in
yeah,
shock.
I'm not mad at it overall. But I have a raised eyebrow. I have a raised eyebrow around certain things. My big hope, if a non-European team can win this,
They will.
and and just the overall fatigue that will come from this, you know, and just slow down City a little bit more, slow down Chelsea a little bit more, then we all win. Then we all win.
I think my hot take, and you know me, I famously said Austria or Denmark at the Euros.
Hmm.
I
You're back again.
think, I truly believe it did. Just watching, dude, I actually have the video. I'm gonna do a reel, obviously, at the end of the tournament. I've gone to all my games, but like, there was one block by an Al Ali defender on Suarez.
Mm.
Khanya, I've never seen this. You know John Terry back in the day when he put his head in.
Yeah.
This nigga was ready to risk his whole existence, because I think the way he blocked it was he tried to like go with his leg and he
Mm.
tripped. So then he just put his face and like
Mm.
just hit him. And like he got up and he said, "Yeah." I said, "Listen, men are fighting for their family lineage." Right? Again, I don't know what's going on. So I really do believe that like a non-European team will take it for the sole reason that the same reason Spain lost to Morocco, right?
Mm.
One, the margins between you and them isn't as deep as you think, right? And in tournament football, these X's and O tactics aren't as palpable, right?
Mm.
It's more about moments, and it's more about managing momentum than anything else.
Mm.
And two, these guys want it more, and I love it.
Yeah.
Watching Botafogo, bro, like they have a striker Jorge Jesus, right?
Mm.
He's 25. I don't know if he'll come over to England. Bro, do you remember that video of like Drogba against Liverpool when like, oh no, Drogba against Bayern, sorry, in Champions League final, when Czech launched it and he had three oaks and then he
Mm.
chested it. He did the same thing. I saw him hold off like three defenders and just like the sheer willpower. Yeah, so I'm really excited, and I hope the games that I am going to go to, because I'm going to a few more, are of good caliber. Again, they are more alt coded than you'd expect. For example,
Mm.
watching Atletico Botafogo, I'm hoping that's gonna. Am I lying? I think I'm lying. I'm
Would
watching
it be Atleti
Atletico.
versus Seattle Sounders?
Oh yeah. Oh, that's upsetting. I don't know why in my head I said Botafogo, but they're not in the same. No, it is. It's Botafogo. Yeah.
Are you sure? Okay, cool.
Yeah, it's Botafogo. I'm
Okay.
very excited for this. Like, I'm genuinely gassed to see how that, you know. But anyways, that's all I have in the Club World Cup. I don't know if you have anything else you wanted to touch on.
Overall prediction: I reckon a few teams, European teams, get embarrassed. My pick is Juve. I think something terrible is going to happen to Juventus.
Why are they even there? Why are they here?
Yeah, look. Also, I think that's another issue with all this thing. How you qualify? It's just like Juve and Dortmund.
For,
I'm not sure
no,
what Juve and Dortmund
Dortmund.
become.
Dortmund makes sense because Madrid beat them in the final, so you can't have Madrid in twice.
Okay,
So it falls
fine.
to Dortmund. Why is Juve here? They haven't been in a Champions League final.
I also haven't been in a Champions League quarterfinal in some time as well.
It's some Dybala and the boys, right? Yeah.
Yeah. It's like it's
Why are they here, bro?
these are ghosts. These are ghosts that we're watching. It's
But that's a
literally
good
ghost
chance.
of Juve. But yeah,
That's a good chance. That's a good
I think
chance.
Juve get embarrassed, and I don't want to say Atleti because they've started so poorly that it kind of seems too obvious now. But yeah, a few European embarrassments. That's my expectation. Probably Dortmund actually, but I don't know if that counts at this point with how they've been moving.
Had they been playing, I hope Sundowns beats them. I really, really do.
Yeah. But yeah, that's the Club World Cup. On to the transfers.
Transfers. Nah, this is.
Amen.
I want to. You know who I want to start with.
Okay.
I didn't want to start with Arsenal. You know who I want to start with, man.
With Chelsea?
Chelsea, bro.
No. The podcast favorite.
Chelsea Football Club. Their transfer strategy. At first, I was very much of the mindset when they first started spending like a kid that just got money to access to his trust fund. I understood it. You needed a mass overhaul. They were in this very weird period of like legends not being good enough or legends being injured. So you lose your identity a bit, right? Then they get to 2020, 2021. Tuchel comes in. Off of the hard work of Frank Lampard. Yeah. Yeah, just want to say that. Tuchel comes in, and now you can see there's an identity shaping. Right, Chelsea are now the gritty team, the team that gets it done by any means necessary. It doesn't have to be pretty, but they're gonna score important and big goals. They developed a bit of a fuck you attitude, right? Beating Atleti in that Atleti win in the Champions League that season very much told me that. So the Mounts, those players, the Loftus Cheeks, those guys, I said, okay, this makes sense. Then they fire Tuchel. I don't know who came. Who comes in after Tuchel? I don't even know.
Graham Potter.
Graham Potter comes in. Look, dude, I can't even recall. And now,
Because that's one of the worst managerians of a top 16 we've ever seen.
yeah,
That was crazy bad.
That was really.
I don't know if he'll ever manage a top 16 ever again.
Nuno worse than Nuno at Spurs.
100%. Nuno, at least Nuno started hot. Hey, Nuno won manager a month. Nuno Hey.
And then we beat them and
a
then
lot
it
of people.
changed.
He tricked a lot of people because also everyone looked. They said they've won, but how are they winning?
How are they doing this? Yeah.
And then obviously everyone else said just let them have the ball and wait. And
Okay, no, yeah. Then Graham Potter, I don't want to give him through the full history of Chelsea, but then when Graham Potter comes in, that's when players start losing lockers. And I thought after making top four, Maresca seems like a lot more competent of a coach, although I do think he's lying. I thought, okay, cool. They have something. They have a foundation. Nicholas Jackson is wasteful, but there's still a striker there. Maybe you get him competition. You have your wingers. Sancho leaves, so you need to maybe replace him. You have your back. Khanya. They signed Lindelap, right? Now they want João Pedro. And I'm like, what
I
do
think
you
Jackson's
think the
available.
Chelsea for purchase?
I think so.
Would you?
I think so.
I don't think it.
Not Arsenal. Not Arsenal.
Okay.
He's not there yet. Right. But I saw someone on Twitter actually suggest that United go in for him. And firstly, I'd love that purely because then Toby had to support Jackson. And I think watching that switch mentally would be amazing.
Right.
But I think they're getting to this really like bad place where it seems their entire model is to just try by the next young prospect and then sell the guy before who didn't make it, right?
Yes.
And obviously because you're buying them so young, the chances are you'll still make a profit, you'll still make some money, you'll always have money to play around with that way, right? Issue is if you just end up in a bad spell where you can't shift certain players because of wages, one other reason, or actually just simply these 9-year contracts that you're putting everybody on. It's just like you kind of put yourself in a situation where everyone kind of has to stay fit. Everyone has to hit the ground running to some extent. And they've gotten lucky so far. President has done better than I thought he would. And by the way, that's 6 goals. And that's better than I thought he would. And I feel like they're just in a situation where they can't ever compete for a league title this way. I think
Yeah.
they are almost determined to only be a top four side, and almost worse off. It's almost as if they only want certain players to do well. Like they're not hoping everyone. Like it's not a
Develops and
meritocracy.
grows. Yeah.
Yeah, that doesn't look like that's what's happening. It doesn't look like Chelsea have a meritocracy of these young talents. It seems to be very heavily reliant on like people who fit this image that they are trying to establish. Because they don't have the emphasis on Cobham the way you expect them to, right? Like
Yes.
their youth academy
But
players aren't getting pushed the way you think they would. Someone
but
like
they
Tariq
never
George.
they never really have. Sorry to cut you off, but they never really have.
I think you highlighted the work that Tuchel benefited from was under Lampard they did. Under
Yeah.
Lampard they were, and ultimately that's what kept them afloat. That's why this the PSR looks the way it does, because they'll be able to at least sell these academy players.
Yes. Yeah.
There's gonna have to come a point in time where those players do start getting more minutes sustainably, or you end up losing them on the cheap. And I think that's where they could potentially run into like real trouble. If you go on Hotmob right now and you try and look through Chelsea's squad, Sheiks, I promise you, it's not practical what they're doing here. It
And
really isn't.
I even
Because
forgot
you
that
can't
they
loan these
signed.
players out forever. Because not
I
everyone's
even
gonna find a suitor.
I even forgot that they signed Estavio Willian.
Yes, and Kendry Baez. They've got players who are arriving in 2 years' time. That's insane.
And these
And
are
those
strikers. These are forwards. I'm like,
those looks on 5 mil, by the way. That's 25 m. That's 20 m. Those are serious coins.
yeah,
Giovanni
29.
Quenda, for my real hipster oaks who are finding streams to watch Portugal under 21, currently killing it at the tournament. He doesn't even arrive this season. He arrives next season. And he wasn't cheap. Again, I say again, these are not cheap players that they're signing. They're not. Sheiks, have you heard of Dario Esugo?
Nah, I haven't. Dude, come on.
Chelsea signed him for 18 mil from Sporting. That's a DM. That's another DM that they've signed.
Who is
Who's now just in the squad?
from Strasbourg? Saw.
Andre, yeah, saw the centre back as well.
Centre back.
They've signed him. That's 12 million. These that again, it's not that these are ridiculous fees that they're paying for all these youngsters. It's that they're just buying so many of them. There clearly isn't a pathway for all of them.
No,
And again,
Chelsea are.
that's perfectly fine to do like up to a certain point. The issue comes when you cannot shift people for the right amount of money.
Yes,
Because
it's
Chelsea at some point are going to be a team where you can just go and say, "This is the final offer, 15 mil. I want Lavia."
What are you gonna do? They've definitely cornered themselves in terms of their model. And it's a bad refinement of what Abramovich used to do, right? Abramovich also used to sign in droves, but then he would loan those guys out for extended periods. And his signing basis was to prevent other teams from ascending,
Yeah,
right? So like, bitch nigga shit, but like it's better.
it was
right?
effective. Yeah,
It's more effective, more sustainable. You pointed out a few things: the length of the contracts. I saw that I just read now Saw was signed a contract until 2033, which is fucking insane. Length of contracts, the sheer number of people, and then the most important thing for me, for the Chelsea fans that do listen to this, is it destabilizes your squad. Because Cole Palmer, I know people now he's being grouped in as a midfielder. Let me tell you something right now.
that's a
Cole,
forward, bro.
that is a forward. Cole Palmer is not a midfielder. Cole Palmer is a forward that needs very specific pieces around him in order to be effective. That period of time when he didn't score or assist for like I think 10 games or whatever it was.
6 months. 6 months. Hey, 6 months. Let's put it right.
Insane.
Florian Wirtz is 150 m. Cole Palmer did not score for 6 months.
Not scoring or assisting for 6 months. That is a sheer derivative.
Outside of pens, obviously, for the stat checkers.
That is pure derivative of him not having the right pieces around him, because Maresca tweaked the system when that happened, right? That's when I think they started to play Caicedo right back to get the overload in the midfield, and now all of a sudden Cole Palmer has has more players higher up the pitch. So now that means he has to play a more specific role. He has to play, in like he started to form that partnership on the right, one of the worst partnerships ever, between him and Neto or him and Madueke, where he'd be playing as like a right attacking mid type hybrid. And that, I don't think it's a coincidence that Maresca makes that change, and then his ability just completely drops, because Palmer thrives in freedom. He needs to be able to move where he wants to move.
To pick wherever he goes.
Instinctively, he needs to be able to do that. So now you are signing all these players, right? You want to give them a chance. What happens to who are you building around? Who are you building with this person in mind? Like when
He's
Chelsea had
building around Kukurea.
Cool,
He's
yeah. No,
building around
genuinely,
Kukurea. Kukurea is the
genuinely.
only person that benefits from the way Chelsea are currently set up. It seems like that's the guy
Why do you
that
say
is.
because they haven't signed a left back?
Well, because he is like the staple left back, right, at 50
Right.
mil.
Yeah.
But like that's the
Fuck.
person who seems to have the freedom to just drift the way you think Cole Palmer would be able to.
Right.
Have you seen how often Kukurea actually arrives like in the
In
box,
the
like in the
box,
final
yeah.
third?
Yeah.
Like that
Yeah.
that's not because Kukurea is some attacking dynamo who's just
I
records he wants to score the goals.
I
That's by
remember
design.
I remember there was a rebound. And it fell to Kukurea like the edge of the box. I was like, why is Kukurea there, bro? Like,
He's always there. But that's
yeah.
like the most attacking players are Cole Palmer and Kukurea.
And Kukurea. And
Yeah,
also another person that it fucks over is Casado. Because for as good
mm,
as Casado was last season, there's so many holes that are just going to become more and more gaping as he develops, right? Like
mm,
he's turning into the African bruiser in the midfield, right? And there's nothing wrong with being that. Obviously, I know he's Colombian, but like there's nothing wrong with being that, the destroyer, the enforcer. But his on-ball ability has significantly regressed, especially in the second half of the season when it comes to picking a pass, when it comes to even just making the right decision. It seemed like he was overcompensating with tenacity and aggression, which is why his
mm,
tackling stats are the way they are. But in terms of dispossessions and loose passes, his pass accuracy, that's dipping. So I
mm,
think when you sign an influx of strikers and the mentality is we have to play all of them, you then end up with things like Casado at right back.
mm.
And it's not helping him. It's to your point, it's not emphasizing the assets that Chelsea have. I think the only person who's actually benefiting from this is Enzo Fernandez, who is
And they
now
kind of have to because he's 100 M's.
he's fuck me. This is unbelievable. These numbers are fuck. I forget the price of these guys. That is
No, I don't
insane.
forget. Trust me. I have a long list on my phone. I say, 100 M's
This
again.
is
I am
fucking
pocket watching.
this
I
is
am pocket watching
insane.
Chelsea FC to say whatever achievement that they have. Never forget, this is a £1 billion squad,
Yeah, no, they've
and
normalized. No,
and
Chelsea are like, dude, like when like, there's like a Zara sale, and then you just cop things you don't need because it's on the sale. That's really the Chelsea mentality right now. And yeah, I'm just to your
Mark
point.
you. How many Chelsea appearances will he make?
Who?
Exactly. He only plays Conference League games. They bought him last season.
And you would think that I think Chelsea's model is depth. They want to get that like a significant amount of depth, but
Yeah,
now
to have two first teams.
having depth with mid players is not a good thing. And like and this is another thing I spoke to about with Madrid, right? Where I said I don't think Rodrigo and Vinny look at Mbappe and say, "Dude, you're actually better than me." Like I don't think you're
Mm,
better than us. That's now a problem in Chelsea too, because
yeah.
If we sit Madueke down and we say, "Do you think Palmer and Neto?" He's saying no. That there's no
Mm.
hierarchy.
No,
There's
but
no
you remember seeing that squabble over the penalty.
yeah, yeah.
Mm,
Perfect example. So
mm,
now, Chelsea, look, I don't think this is sustainable. I think it's funny because they've fixed one problem they've had, which was premature firing of managers. I do think Boyle is a bit more patient and a bit more willing to back, but now they've replaced it with another problem, which is just not having a clear identity. They're not building around the right players to build around. To your point, Enzo Fernandez
mm,
and Kukurea cannot be the two players that benefit most from you signing players. When you have Cole Palmer, who you've heralded as the next big thing, right? When you have Nicholas Jackson, who was 40 up top, who was your top goal scorer. Of course, I'm not saying it's not frustrating, but like
mm,
I think being watching football for as long as you and I have, and it's not nothing crazy, but I mean, touching about like 2 decades now.
mm.
You kind of understand that the effectiveness of a player in certain positions can trump aesthetics. And I think
Yeah.
when you are a poacher and you are fast, who cares what you look like? Who cares how many mistakes you make, right? Because Edison Cavani at the beginning of his career was very much in this vein. He was very much a wasteful forward who
And he's
looked
honestly he stayed that way. He just
he
kept
stayed
getting
that way,
chances.
but
He just kept getting chances. The movement.
the aesthetic looked much better. Like
Yeah.
his touch and thing developed over time. But
Yeah.
I'm not saying Jackson is going to be that. But I'm just saying, Aubameyang is another one, very awkward footballer, but they
Yeah.
score goals. So I'm just like, does Jackson need competition? Yes. Do you need to phase him out, as you were saying, to then sell? I don't think so. But that's that. Look, that I just wanted to touch on Chelsea because I do think it's symbolic of a potential collapse, in my opinion. I think they were saved this season, that there were all of those extra spots in the Champions League, about the one extra spot. I think if it was purely a top four determination, I don't think they make it. I think they capitulate. But knowing they had the safe haven of saying, "Oh, I could finish fifth," I think that spurred them on to like want to achieve more and to keep pushing. Yeah, that's look. You can close Chelsea and take us wherever you want to, but I just wanted to really speak on Chelsea.
Yeah. Important note: Nick Jackson was only 32 million. Very, very efficient signing. For those who continue to mock him, I challenge you to find me a striker who moves for less than that, who is better than him, or the equivalent amount, and is better than Nicholas Jackson. Still one of the best value for money signings seen in the 2020s. We will wait. We will wait, Toby. And also, crucially, Christopher Nkunku. Tell me where he plays next season. That's 60 M's. Thank you. Enough Chelsea. Enough Chelsea.
Okay.
We have Manchester City.
Right.
I think they're lifting.
Oh yeah, the league for show, for show, for show, for show.
I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
I feel like there's a few things coming together in a way. I'm just kind of like Doku ended the season finally getting himself together. Grealish on his way out. Savinho, a full season embedded in the Premier League. Foden, resurgent again. Rodri's back. Turkey's arrived. They signed Mamouche in January. I'm just like, this is an insane amount of options to have. I haven't even touched on Reinders. I haven't touched on Ait Nouri. Like
Doku just scored.
Yeah, there you go. I don't know how we're meant to compete with a team that can spend like this.
Yeah, no.
Like this is. I honestly, they're favorites for me.
For sure. No, for sure. They're favorites. Yeah. Liverpool, I think, are probably trailing just behind. Let's see how. I'm still a bit weary of that word signing, but I think Slot is going to change the system entirely. I don't think Liverpool are going to.
100%.
Yeah,
they have to. You can't play from Pong in the back four.
Yeah. And you can't play Verts with as like a pure cam. Like that's not going to work. And you have Zoboslai there. So yeah, I think Liverpool, depending on that, are second. And honestly, not to make this Arsenal, because we do need to touch on City's transfers. We need to just focus on cups. This is very early thingy. Bro, I'm telling you now, if we just say Carling Cup by Jan or Carabao Cup by Jan, FA Cup final and Champions League quarter semis.
Just go deep in the Champions League. Yeah.
Yes, and then just finish top four. That is because to bet on the scary thing about City signings. Pep has, as you've said, put his ego to the side, sold the players that need to be sold, and he's signing functionally. The scary thing about these City signings is for the first time in maybe 6 years, it's the number of combinations that they have. Before, post 2018-19 or post 2017-18, City signed on the basis of replacing the cogs in the wheel. So you'd get similar profiles that it's just to a lesser degree that fills in for a player when he's out. Now you have Rangers, Rodri. I know you're not a big fan, but Nico Gonzalez, right? Gundogan. The number of midfield combinations, just from those four alone. You can do 2, you can do 1, you can do a flat 3, you can do a flat 2. It is, imagine a 4-4-2 with Reinders and Rodri. How where are the flaws in that? You have Rodri sitting base, Rangers can sit base or go. You can.
Only thing with that is that Rangers is trying to find suitable comparison. The guy hates defending. He hates it.
Which is what Turkey hates too. But let me tell you something. That weight loss we're about to see come August. No, I'm being so serious, because the thing that scared me about Turkey, because we know very much about I don't know if North African countries are considered francophone, but francophone tax, it applies to the North African countries, right? And those are players who very much they have such a strong culture that they need that culture to be prevalent in their footballing environment to succeed. We've seen it so many times. Mahrez's first season at City, for example, right? Where he didn't acclimate, he didn't adjust, he kind of was still used to the freedom of, Leicester and being
Leicester.
able to express himself. Tarat is another famous example of this. Abdel Tarat. This thing that's scaring me about Turkey specifically, look at the quotes. This man is ready to fucking kill. You said that quote about Man United.
Yeah.
Dude, it's July. It's July, bro. No, like for me, that those are the things I'm looking at when I say when there is a emergence of or a converging of Pep's system and commitment. Oh my god, man. Leroy Sané is another example of that because Sané is a cunt. I think now the world knows. No. You know where that clip that went a bit viral with Mane and Sane. Sane's a piece of shit, bro. Like he's not a good person. Based on how his demeanor is on the pitch. Bundesliga dropped maybe not Bundesliga, but it was like an official account on TikTok. I'll try find it for you. Dropped an
Of him
account,
fighting people.
dude. Like he's actually just not a good person. Like he's actually
No,
just
man.
a very
He just has an ego. He has an ego. That much is clear.
he has an ego, but his ego is also very abrasive and combative. Like it's different to Ronaldo's ego or the egos you're kind of used to. Like his ego is it's militant. it's colonial. No, genuinely.
No,
but
man.
but the thing that shocks me about Sane, I had no idea this is who he was because when he was at Man City, he committed. He said, Pep, I'm committing to your system. I thought he was just a shy, quiet, big match moment player that was fearless. But that's not, he's easily pissed off. He's got a very short fuse. He's a sore loser. I did not know this was his personality because of the commitment component. And I use him as an example to say, when talented players commit psychologically and mentally to Pep Guardiola's system, it's scary. So I hear what you're saying about Rangers. I hear what you're saying about Turkey. But I'm looking at I haven't heard much about Rangers, but I'm looking at Turkey and I'm saying if that is the mentality of all these guys coming in, oh my goodness gracious, I'm terrified. The only saving grace for Man City and what we haven't seen from their transfers, in my opinion, is the bolstering of their back line. I think they need to sign
do something there.
Yeah. I know Aitonori, great signing. Oh my god, they have so many different combinations. It's insane. But great signing. But again, that's more of an offensive.
An attacker.
Yeah. They're trying to. I think they're trying to maximize. Like Haaland must have no excuses for not scoring, and I think that's the mentality that they're kind of carrying. But like losing Kyle Walker in more ways than one, because obviously he's physically gone, but in the team he hasn't been the same Kyle Walker since about last season or now 2 seasons ago. They need something there, right? Diaz is a commander of a back line. He's not a standalone brilliant centre back. Like you put Gabriel next to Socrates, Rob Holding. He's still Gabriel, and he can even raise the level of other people. Diaz is not that centre back. Diaz is an organizer of a back line. If you give him competent players, he will lead those men forward. I don't think they have enough there. So that's the only saving grace, and also the fact that they've kept Edison for another season, which is I don't know why he's still there.
So I don't know if what you pointed out is the main reason why I think Liverpool could still have a chance. I don't know how City, because granted they have a bottomless pit of money, right? I do think the only issue is I don't know how they bolster their defense now. I don't know who that talent even is at this point in time. They signed 2 centre backs. Granted, they're both youngsters, but they signed centre backs in January. I don't know if they can. I don't know if they can go again and say, okay, cool. We're also going to get this guy and then this guy. Like they're either getting a right back to replace Kyle Walker, or they're getting a centre back. I don't think they get both. And
I'd say right back is the priority.
Yeah, and I think that lack of balance is maybe what tips things in Liverpool's favor overall, right? In that Liverpool have less to adapt to holistically. Like yes, Trent is a loss, but I think Slot seems to have a very clear idea and was willing to move on from, being Trent centric quite early on into last season. In any case,
yeah.
So City do have a lot of figuring out to do, but they will definitely be the most entertaining side in the league next season. I think that much is pretty much guaranteed.
Who do you think Man City are going to be?
City, most entertaining side. Most entertaining side.
Okay. Early shouts. Anything else you want to highlight in terms of transfers? There hasn't really been much movement. We're still a bit early, and I think they closed the window. So I don't know if there's anything you want to close us off with before we wrap up the episode.
Andrea Berta, Nicola Teta, Stan Kroenke.
Why'd you
I
say?
come to
Why'd you
you.
say Cronky in
I
Italian accent?
I come to you humbly,
Cronky.
today.
What is this accent?
There's a man who currently wears this badge. I am begging you to fetch Rafael Leao. It's not that complex. It's not that complex. We don't
That's your
have
left
another.
wing.
We don't have enough options. We don't have enough options to be waiting like this. If there's even a chance, he's going to be lying in this window. You better make sure he comes to us. We're not going to sign a better left winger than that in the next 5 years. I
So
promise you.
let's just close off with this. We had this conversation on the group. You expressed your concerns over Rodrigo. I wasn't able to respond because I was working.
Mm.
And you said you're tired of us pushing for players who need to be convinced to join us and who are, shy and all of those things.
And also, dog, for Rodrigo to have the ego he has, he's not going to help us, bro. He's and he keeps being likened. Like I'm seeing it online. He's being likened to Sanchez at Barca. It's not the same thing.
I
It's
agree.
not the
I
same
agree.
thing.
I don't think he's Sanchez at Barca. I think he's Pedro at Barcelona, not Sanchez. I view him as Pedro at Barca.
I don't want to side Pedro.
So what I'm saying is, do you not think similar concerns, although different concerns, are applicable to Liao? Right, like Toby.
Talent is just way greater. I think that's the issue for me. That the gap in talent between what I think Rodrigo has versus what I think Leao has is massive. Like I think there's a reason why when Brazil play and Vinny doesn't play well, we're like, Vinny, how are you doing this? We don't talk about Rodrigo for Brazil.
But that's because
And I-
That's because, but in my opinion, that's because he's just been handed the second fiddle. Like you could.
But how did that happen? They arrived at the same age. They arrived similar prices. Why is it Vinny Rose after Benzema was talking about him saying, "Brother, this guy's playing against him"? What was Rodrigo doing in that time?
That's exactly
what was
why.
He doing?
It's because Rodrigo's always been like this. He's been gradual growth, whereas Vinny went from being told he's playing against us to now being probably the best player on the team for a few seasons. I just say I don't know how fair that is when if you remove Rodrigo's contributions, I think Madrid are less successful than if you remove Vinny's contributions in the biggest moments. I think Rodrigo's. I think if you look at goals, and I don't have the facts, I'll have to research this. I think if you look at goals from behind or goals from losing positions, goals to tie games, goals to win games, Rodrigo has done more for Madrid than Vinny has. I think Vinny is a more sustained level of brilliance than Rodrigo. And I hear what you're saying about talent. Although I don't know. It's like it's tough because it's two different players. It's two different profiles, right? Like Leao's,
I think that's also part of the issue. I don't even think we need Rodrigo's profile as badly as we need Leao's.
I think we need Rodrigo's more than Leao's. Is your perspective obviously viewed in the transition thread or that Leao possesses? But how many games in the season are we going to be able? Like last season, I can think of PSG as the only time I looked at us not having a transition threat and said, "Oh, we're fucked."
If we had one in that game, we win it, then we possibly win the Champions League.
I agree. In
the biggest moments, I trust Leao to show up more than I trust most footballers in world football today.
Do you not think that's only the case if he has a chip on his shoulder? And that's my problem with Leao. That's my issue with Leao. Leao needs to be hated. He needs not to be hated, but he needs there to be murmurs.
I don't think he needs to be because when he won the league for Milan, there was a lot of they weren't saying that much at that point in time. He was just the guy that Milan had signed.
I was going to say new guy tax. It's different when it's a different arriving versus when you've arrived. It's different when you're arriving versus when you've arrived. Because since that league win, which I do agree, because I'm a Leao fan. I fight Toby with you whenever he's being racist. But I'm just saying, I would rather, and this is why I use the Pedro example, because with Pedro, he would score important goals, but he may not score frequently. But you knew what you were getting, because even if he's not scoring, there's contributions in the game that you can depend on. The way I'm looking at Arsenal, I'm taking a guy who scores in big games, who has a sustained level over another tempestuous player. We have Havertz there doing that. Right? We have Odegaard there doing that. Do we need another guy who can go from being, I agree, at his best, Leao's probably the best left wing in the world. Like if you say FIFA bump, like in form, I think Leao is the best left wing in the world. But I can't handle him being the 15th best left wing in the world because he's decided to drop another rap song This is a racist example, but you know what I mean. Like,
No, he
I,
does rap.
yeah, I know he does, but I'm just saying, like, it's that's the problem. I can't deal with tempestuousness because, as you pointed out, how do we beat City? We beat
If we talk,
City through
if we talk
consistency.
about Bayern, right? Like a player buying into Pep's ideology. Can you imagine if, just for a second, if Liao bought into what Arteta wants from him? Can you imagine what that player is?
Arteta isn't Pep.
He doesn't have to be Pep.
He,
Liao's
ha-
Liao.
he has to be Pep because I think to convince a player like Leao to buy into anything is a tall task. It's a tall.
I
Leao
don't
to
think
me,
so.
really. I mean, you watch AC more, so
I honestly think the biggest issue with Liao at Milan fundamentally has just been after Milan won the league, they just slowly got stripped apart, and I think he's looked down and said, "You guys actually taken away everything I had to win the league here. You took it away, and then it's fine. I must just be the guy on my own." Tonali leaves, okay. Then after that, 2 seasons later, you brought in Morata as his 9. I think fundamentally he's just extremely disillusioned, as I have been as a Milan fan, because it's just like, bro, what the hell am I supposed to care about here? Like,
Morata.
why? Why
That's
would he care? Why would he be so moved to show up every single week to do what? Then amidst all of this, the one coach that Milan have had in this entire time that's had any sensibility, he left. He went to Saudi, and then they brought Fonseca.
Oh, it's Pioli, right?
Uh, yes, and then Fonseca spent 3 months telling Liao that he must track back like a fullback. It's just like, why? Who am I doing this for? Who am I sacrificing my game for?
So what you're saying is Leao needs an environment.
Yes,
To
everyone
make
does.
No. Because this is what I was going to say. I don't think that's a problem because you're going to get that environment at Arsenal. That's a fair point. If you're saying Leao will never bring down an environment, but if the environment is down, he's not going to.
He's not going to raise on his own.
That's
but that being said,
that's
even
most
though he was getting
employers.
benched most of the season, in the only time Milan needed him to be really real, he came with the bench and he won them the game.
Right.
The only moment Milan have had this entire season was on Liao.
No, fair. I think that's fair, right? I just again, I'm looking at
sorry.
this.
Before you go, Rodrigo is a lazy son of a gun, and it gets swept under the carpet. His running stats in the Champions League are
bad.
not that much better than Vinny or Mbappe.
Is it not a Carlo tax though?
I've never seen Rodrigo as this work.
Look. I would say this. I'd say this. If Rodrigo leaves, and this is where I agree with you, because I don't agree with you saying when you said you're tired of Arsenal signing players that don't want to join us. I think that's important, but it's the determining factor is. I'm sorry. I think that's still a signable player can be someone that doesn't necessarily want to join us, not because he doesn't want to join us, but because he doesn't want to leave his club. Very important distinction, right? If a player doesn't want to leave his club, I think we should still sign that player depending on how he receives being told he's leaving. And this is where I'm unsure about Rodrigo. If he's as shy and soft as you say, and him leaving, being sold by Madrid will break him, I don't want him. If it will be a fire to say, fuck you guys, I'm going to show you. And I don't know if Rodrigo has that in him. I want him more than any other player in world football.
I think that's the thing. In this, we've spoken so many times about needing players with personality, players with edge, right, in the team. I don't think Rodrigo has that. I need a player who might headbutt somebody. That's why you need my attacker, low key.
Nah,
I need something else. This idea.
This is a Guendouzi love song right now. You're just trying to get
maybe. But my point overall is that I'm not moved enough by Rodrigo. I've got the graphic here. I'm not sure what's gonna show the way I need it to here. Can you see this? Can you see what I'm trying to show you?
Is that him on the far right?
No, on the far right it's Mbappe.
That's him, of course.
Then it's Vinny.
That's Vinny, and then Rodrigo's there. I see.
No,
after
Lamine.
After Lamine, after Lamine. Yeah,
bro, and it's just like he's not doing what Lamine's doing. He's not that. The fact that when Vinny did get injured, sorry to keep doing this. When Vinny got injured in Jude's first season, it wasn't Rodrigo that stepped up. It was Jude and Hosselu. That's who Oaks were looking to. He was playing left wing majority of that time. It was just like, can't wait till Vinny gets back, man. That's a good 3 months. Good 3 months of the season where you're just saying, really hope Vinny comes back. In fact, I'm pretty sure how underwhelming Rodrigo was in that time is why when Vinny came back and ended up winning the Champions League, is why Madrid said, we have to get this guy the Ballon d'Or. because it wasn't going to happen without him. If it was
I
just Rodrigo in that time,
I think it's interesting.
I've watched them side by side
because
for too long, bro.
we have two similar situations with our potential signings, and we should close after this. It's two imperfect players who have four imperfect players who have crazy potential, and I think the same conversation we're having about Rodrigo versus Leao is the same conversation you can have about Sesko versus
Gyökeres.
Gyökeres. Exact same conversation, because I look at everything you've said about Rodrigo, I can't fight, but I think similar, not in narrative, but in concern, can be said about Leao. So now it's a question of play style, right? And we need both profiles. I agree, we need a transition threat, right? But I also think we need someone more competent than Martinelli at breaking down deep blocks. And we also need someone more competent than Trossard and Martinelli. And this is what I also like about Rodrigo, in the air. Because now we have a potential left wing, left forward situation where those back post crosses from White can be met by someone, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, I will not lie, Leao's ability to change a game. I don't think in world football there's anyone as impactful as him. That Nations League final, Spain had to completely make three changes to cover that right hand flank. They had three bodies just to say, this guy, no, forget what we're doing. We need to stop this guy. So I hear that too.
I saw Lamine track back. I saw him run. I saw Lamine changing. I said,
who did they brought on that small winger, the diminutive winger, La Liga. I forgot his name, man. Bro, what is his name? Pizzo. I'm so annoyed. Sorry, I'm not gonna move on.
Who you're referring to?
Spain. They brought on this winger to help neutralize. So I'll get his name right now. His whole thing is just like his ability to cover ground. Like, I just think that's crazy. Like, they were like, no, you are terrorizing us to this point.
Are you referring to
Pino? There we go. Yes, they literally said, Pino, dude, come on. You're just here to track. You are a block down that right hand flank for Spain, so that this guy on the left does not cook us. I can't deny his impact. But then, see, the same can be said about Gyökeres and Sesko, because Sesko, I think, in terms of play style, suits us more, right? He can link up, he can pull out a banger out of nowhere, but the finishing is inconsistent, very inconsistent finisher, right? But great link up play, more competent on the ball.
Wait, sorry, are you referring to Sesko or Gyökeres? Yeah.
Sesko.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Yeah.
Continue.
No. So Sesko, great link up play.
Gyökeres is a wall.
And that's what I was about to say. Great link up play can pull out a goal out of his ass, which you need in those tight games, and more competent on the ball than Havertz, right? So you can also have a very funny, weird system where you have him and Havertz up top. The last 20 minutes of a game, it can cook. But now, inconsistent finishing, and I can't deal with another. You know, Kai's won me over bit by bit, but I can't deal with another one, bro. But then at the same time, Gyökeres finishes his fucking food, fam. That man finishes his food.
He's a killer.
A killer in every sense of the word. And not only is he a killer, he's a killer who does have a bit of shiftiness to him on the ball. He's not as robotic as
No, he can move. He just can't.
He can move. Yeah. He can't dribble past someone, but he can dribble to score. You know what I'm saying?
No, he can carry the ball. He can carry the ball.
Right. Whereas with Haaland, he lost that ability when he came to the Prem. I don't know why. But I say that to say, you then lose link up. You then lose. It's like someone tweeted, and that's why I posted Adebayo and Van Persie in my story. I miss the days when you could just buy both, right? And then you have both, because I'm telling you this right now. In a league season, I want Gyökeres.
Yeah.
Throughout the course of a 38 games.
38 games, Gyökeres is the truth.
Give me Gyökeres.
Because he will get 15.
Yes.
He will.
In
He will
any
get
cup
15.
competition, give me Sesko. In any cup competition. Because this guy's ability to just say, oh, it's 1-1. There's 15 minutes.
Nah, stop Vince.
Volley. What do you mean? Like, this is the first time, and as much as I give Van Persie shit, I'm very defensive of him because I know how good he was. This is the first time I've seen Van Persie comparisons, and I'm like, I see it.
Because only player.
The only player.
The technique.
Oh my goodness. There's that one volley he scored, the famous
against
one.
Chelsea. Yeah, the one against Chelsea. Sesko's the first player I've looked at and been like, I think you could do it.
Yes, yes.
I think you might be able to maneuver your body that way.
I was talking about Shesko's volley over the shoulder top. I forgot who it was against.
Yeah.
Who was that?
I think it was a Nations League qualifier game.
I think so. Yeah,
yeah.
for it was for.
Yeah.
Where's he from? So
He's Czech.
Czech.
I think
Right,
he's Czech. I think he's
from
Czech.
from that Yugoslav former.
I'm lying. He's Slovakian.
Former Yugoslavia. There.
Yeah.
He banged it in, and I said, Van Persie. And to your point, that Charlton goal, which I think is the most athletic goal I've ever seen in my life, which is a pun. That Charlton goal is the most athletic. That's a ball. Yo, that's actually crazy. But that's the most athletic goal I've ever seen in my life. I think he could do it. So, look, the point I want to make about Arsenal here is just, I understand your passion for Leao. I'm not even against it. I just think let me close with this. One decision needs to influence the other. If we sign Leao, we need Chesko. If we sign Rodrigo, we need Gyökeres. Because I need there to be balance. I can't have Leao. You get what I'm saying? I can't have Leao and Gyökeres. No. That'll month. Listen, that there, that's gonna month. That's gonna be horrible. But now if we have Leao and then we go with
although Leao can cross. Like Leao would create a lot for
phenomenal cross.
Do you know seriously, I think Leao works with anyone that's not Morata. I think that's the bar. If we sign a striker better than Morata, we're good to go. That's all that we have to do here. The striker thing, I'm not that fussed about, right? Okay. Because ultimately, I've been saying this for a while. The issue is that Arsenal do not create enough chances, more often than not, right? The idea for me is that if you sign a winger that can produce and create as many chances for himself as Leao can, you should be fine. I'm not even saying get just Leao. I'm saying an outlet, bro. Rodrigo, to some extent, is also not even fast enough to be the one I would want.
He's sucker fast.
Yeah, and it's like, and I have an issue with that. Like, I want someone who can do things that Saka can't. I don't think that Rodrigo can do that.
Agreed, unless we have a hitter up top, and that's what I'm saying. Because you know who it reminds me of?
Because then the striker has to make up for the fact that we have Rodrigo. I want a winger where it doesn't matter who's up front.
No, what I'm saying is, if you have two playmaking wide players, and then your striker is a hitter, do you know who you have? You have Hazard, Willian, and Costa. And that can cook. And that's what I'm saying. Like, if we I agree.
Ask Chelsea fans what they thought about Willian. For years they wanted him upgraded.
No. Willian
yes, functionally
near the end.
Functionally.
This is a Chelsea player of the season. 2-time. What do you mean? This is a 2-time Chelsea player of the season. Don't disrespect him.
Question. Peak Willian or Rodrigo?
I actually don't know. I genuinely don't know. We must do a poll.
I have an issue with that.
No. But then it's like, okay, peak Vinny or peak Robinho? Lie to me and say.
Here it is. It's because here it is. It's because Vinny sucks, bro. Vinny's lapses in his games are. Nah, I'm picking Robinho. Yo, you know what?
I'm thinking Robinho
Talent-wise. It's just because I'm afraid of what Vinny looks like at 32.
Bro.
Vinny at 30, I'm nervous for that footballer.
And the funniest, we need to close after this. We'll do final shoutouts. But the funniest video, he was playing indoor with those Oaks. He was 1-on-1 with the guy, and he just dragged the ball back. And then he lost control of it, and he did the 1-2. And then if you read the comments, people are like, "What the fuck is this?"
Nah, man, I'm not.
Vinny Jr., man. Now listen, match winner, but it's a different. Let me say this: it's a different profile of Brazilian player. I've never seen this type of Brazilian player, like ever, for better and for worse. Because when he's motivated, he tracks back, right? Like those 2 seasons with Benz, he was a real dynamic winger, but. He looks more Portuguese. Someone said it's the Cameroonian side. It's the Congolese. Sorry, they said it's the Congolese side that comes to surface. But anyways, we love Vinny Jr. and don't kill us. Why does it say anti-America? Nah, we can't release this. They'll deport me, dude. What the fuck? That's insane. What the hell? Dude. Nah, we need to edit that, bro. They'll cook me. This can't go out. What the fuck? Oh, you put it there.
Yes.
I'm thinking, what the fuck, bro? Any final shouts, bro? Anything you want to say?
Nah, I'm good. I'm good. Honestly, dude, I don't understand Rodrigo. In all seriousness, I just don't. Sign somebody else. Sign a different winger. Doesn't have to be Liao. I want a winger that's an outlet. That is one of the prerequisites for me.
Yeah.
I'm
Fair shout.
annoyed that we're going into the season having seen other people's business and thinking we're not going to win the league, or probably we won't win the league. I at least need to see some signings that make me super excited for the next season. For the next season, and I'm okay if we're not signing strictly win now players if that's the case. But I want us to be one of the most entertaining sides in the league again. That is my prerequisite. Otherwise, I've said it before. I'm ready to get the banner out, cheeks. I
Yeah.
don't want to. I don't want to get the banners out, but
But you're ready for it.
give us something to believe in.
Hear that, hear
That's
that.
what I need from my team.
For me, it's just to say, Chelsea, you are the most anti-football establishment I have seen in some time. I am not a fan of what they're doing. I'm not a fan of how they commodify footballers, and I will be very surprised. Very early shouts. Very very surprised if they have a successful season. I really will be surprised. Early shouts. Things could change. I'll be surprised, and I'll say, Club
But
World
what
Cup, get
constitutes
in.
successful for Chelsea at this point?
I think after top four finish, with the money they've spent, it's a title challenge, right? Until April, right? And FA Cup and one of those competitions. And a deep run in the Champions League. I'd say that is what would constitute a successful season. And then finally, I'll just say, Club World Cup, get in your alt bag because there's football to be watched. Yeah. Yeah, do you want to sign off? Because I'm going to do it in my accent if I sign off, so you can sign off.
Thank you for tuning in. It's been a great episode, full of chuckles. William or Rodrigo, please vote in the poll. Thank you for your time.
We'll make a poll. That's funny.